I'm Reverend Veronica, and we're going to talk about living an abundant life and how grateful to be here. Thank you, Unity on Greenville. Let me see those smiles. Last time. I'm so excited for you, though, because you are on, you're entering this new portal of abundance and good and joy with Reverend David Howard. I'm going to have to come and sneak him a little note. And thank you to all who are on Facebook now or those yet to come, because we gather here in the name of God, in the name of good. So we're going to talk about living an abundant life. So who's ever been to the Dallas Arboretum? Anybody been there lately for the fall? All right, so you walk in. It's my favorite time of the year, besides spring, because I love the spring. But you walk in, and there are literally thousands of pumpkins. Thousands. And I'll never forget, it was like a year or two ago, this little girl was literally running, going, pumpkins, pumpkins. I'm like, girl, I feel the same way. And except I couldn't do that because people would be laughing at me. But it was just that overwhelming joy of the abundance of pumpkins and that childlike wonder that sometimes we miss. And did you know that pumpkins represent prosperity? Because you could take one big pumpkin and feed an entire family. So not only were there thousands of pumpkins, and I'm thinking of all the farmers or whoever they get them from, but I'm thinking the prosperity and the abundance of God that in every moment is available to us if we're willing to see it. And then the joy of being of that little girl to remind us of the abundance and just that joy. So there's this quote I want to share because sometimes we forget to see what's in front of us. We're constantly checking our bank accounts. What do I have this month? Do I have enough? And rightfully so. We live in the world of form, right? Money is just an exchange, but we forget about the actual abundance of God and how we really do live abundantly. The author's name is John Brehm of The Sacred Pause. It's remarkable what we can see when we stop and turn the light of awareness on the things we take for granted. I'm going to read that again. It's remarkable what we can see when we stop and turn the light of awareness on the things we take for granted. When it comes to abundance, most people are looking at the beauty of the arboretum, but are they truly understanding that the abundance of what we call God, this source energy, this one source, is what's living and moving and circulating all this light and all this love as pumpkins? And then I was in a class with Puma Freddy. He's this Peruvian Indian shaman. And he was talking, and I did take the class because the name of the mountain, they're sacred mountains, they call them apus, but the name of the mountain was called Mama Veronica. I'm like, well, I got to take that. That's my name. And it was all about prosperity and abundance. I'm like, I like that. But the real name is, let me pronounce it correctly, Wapak Wilka. But he's talking about not only the beauty of the sacred valley, but he's talking about this one area and this one mountain that from the lower climate to the higher, there's 700 different types of orchids. Can you imagine that? 700 different type of orchids cultivated. Talk about abundance. And then what really caught my heart really, is how he shared and all the fruits that are cultivated also in that area for the community. And once again, abundance was the awareness of beauty, but then also of the fruits for community. And it reminded me of the key teachings I feel like Christ gave us, all right? I really feel like we've been given these teachings from the lessons that we know about the abundance of, I call it God, but you can call it whatever you want, divine source, divine love, divine, light, but that we have these keys to really recognize and realize that we live and move in an abundant world that source energy always supplies, and sometimes we forget. And I believe nature is our reminder. Can you imagine just walking through 700 orchids? That would just be so overwhelming. I'd be that kid screaming, orchids, the joy of my being. But the three keys that I realized for myself in regard to the teachings of Christ was, the first key was that the kingdom of heaven is within. And that teaching for me is about joy, that the abundance of joy is within my heart. It's not necessarily what's happening in the world. And trust me, I love beautiful things, and I love my life, flowing in order and prosperity. But sometimes we forget the abundance of joy in the moment that comes from our heart. And that everything that we're truly seeking, really, that true wealth comes from within. Happiness comes from within. Joy is that deep abiding place of that experience of just life and in gratitude for all the good that is here. And that if you're willing to accept the joy of the simplicity of the moment, that's when you understand how wealthy you really are. I always bring it back to my nieces and nephews, because they, as little children, and the great master teacher said, be as little children, always reminded me that the truth of my beingness is that every little thing can bring me joy if I attune to it. So you blow bubbles, and they're screaming and screeching in utter delight. The abundance of bubbles for them, joy. Fireflies out, in May, and they're screeching at that, joy. Big trucks coming down the road, joy. And I realized the purity of their heart is because that joy was coming from within, even though they were having external conditions that they were, participating in, but it was that deep, abiding love and joy. Now, give me a moment here so I can redo my timer, because otherwise I'll be speaking for like 30 hours. So first key is the kingdom of heaven is within. So how often have we missed that heart-centered living, that we're so focused on what we don't have that we forget to be present to the good that is available to us? Janice and I this morning had a joy-filled interaction. That was just abundant joy that we were circulating with each other with our stories. It lit me up. Did it light you up? Yeah, it lit you up. And that's what I mean, that heart-centered living, that abundance that is present, and that pure energy that we can feel, but we feel it from our heart, not our head. And it's really bridging that distance between the heart and the head to really understand that to live an abundant life is to be in the joy of the moment and to see with eyes that truly see how blessed we are. I live in this little treehouse casita, I call it, and it's getting a little crowded because it's like my nonprofit is over here, my altar's over there, and here's my little entertainment area. But I just realized as I sat there in the morning just going, but how blessed am I that I have a safe and sacred space? Because right now, there are people coming all the way from Venezuela, and they have to go through Panama and the jungles, and it's dangerous, and it's frightening, and they're trying to find a better life. And yet, here I am sitting here having breakfast. We forget, because the mind will tilt to what I don't have or my to-do list, and we forget that in this moment, and there was such a joy. There's prayer for those who are in need, because I always drop it into prayer, but there's this joy of what is available to me now and how abundantly blessed I am. And if you come to my little house, you'll see a bunch of crystals too, so that's another abundance. But it's really that truth of right in this moment, all of my needs are met. Unlock that key of my heart. Thank you, Spirit. The second key is always gratitude. If you notice, Jesus always prayed in gratitude before a miracle or a meal. He's the kind of friend I'd love to have, though, in regard to the food. You always have a banquet with the great master teacher. But gratitude allows us to recognize and acknowledge the good in the moment. Now, when he was multiplying the fishes and the loaves, he didn't go, oh, dude, we don't have enough. What are we going to do? He looked. All right, let me bless it. Let me give thanks for what is here. Let me look around. Let me see no, I don't know you. You can't come. Oh, way in the back. Are you my cousin? No, I'm sorry. He didn't judge. He's like, multiply it by blessing with gratitude, and fed everyone. And you find that over and over and over. There's several stories in the New Testament where Jesus is praying and multiplying. Because why? Because he knows that God is the source of all this. That the one life and the one power that we call God is what's being multiplied. That there's more than enough to feed one another. That there was no need for greed, because all he saw was okay, we got 5,000 orders. Bring it up, all right? And he did. And I would love to be able to time travel to be in that consciousness of there's more than enough, and I know God is my source and is multiplied in this moment. And some of the most generous people that I've ever met are those who seem like they don't have enough, and they always share. And they always share. So for me, that second key is the key of gratitude. It clears your eyes, it clears your lens, and then allows you to use your voice. So we got the heart that we're using, right? Kingdom first key is the heart. The second is that gratitude, which is your voice. We're literally bringing it out into the world. We are speaking it out loud. We've got our gratitude affirmations. We're in such a place of like, thank you, Spirit. Thank you. And then what we know then is if my needs are met and your needs are met and the loaves have been multiplied, well, who else needs some, right? And to live an abundant life is not only to accumulate for myself, it's then to have a generous heart to not withhold my resources, but then to share with a generous heart. And that's the third key, is generosity, and it's a place of love. Generosity is not conditional, it is unconditional. Generosity gives from the heart and gives from gratitude, and then knows that by multiplying it, that we are actually serving God. There is that parable, and let's see if I can find it in all my little notes here, of the rich fool. The parable of the rich fool, which I love, all right? And so I'm just going to summarize it where, Jesus is in the crowd, and this guy comes up to us, and he's like, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And Jesus said, "Man," I love that. Can you hear him going, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" And then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he goes to tell the parable about the man who suddenly has all this abundance, and he thinks to himself with his crops, "What should I do with it?" And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to build this big, container for all the grain, the surplus, so then I can have years and years and years, to take life easy." But God said to him, "You fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God." So it's not about not being wealthy. It's about hoarding resources, thinking this is just for me. Generosity is a key because what you understand is I'm circulating divine source energy, that there's more than enough. I'm doing it from a place of absolute abundance. I'm not being the fool who's afraid. I'm understanding that if my community is not also being served, then I'm not serving God. And a generous heart can mean that you give $1 and it's the best $1 you gave with all your love. A generous heart isn't conditional, saying, "Well, I'm going to give this to you only if you do A, B, C, or D." A generous heart understands that this is source energy, that I am simply circulating in the world because I'm abundant in every single way. Now, I tend to get in trouble with my family because I give money to people. I know they say don't, but I do. I'm like, in this moment, I have extra. It's for me, I'm serving God. And I'll never forget, there was this woman by the highway, and I just sat there in my car, I'm like, my life will never, ever be in a circumstance where I lose everything. I know enough people, and I've experienced loss or long-term illness, that I have a place to stay and a place to be. And I looked at her with such deep compassion, and I literally heard a voice say, "Give her the $60. And I heard it, and I'm usually not auditory. I'm like, okay. And I remember that I had to turn around, and when I gave it to her, I don't know what happened where I gave it to her, and I came around again, and it's like I saw her walking off, and she was weeping. And I heard her, "Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God." I didn't know her circumstances. I didn't know what she would do with the money, but I heard Spirit say, "Give her the $60. Most people say, "Don't give them money," but something within me is like, from the generosity of my heart, to circulate that energy. And I've never told that story before, because I actually don't usually tell stories like that, but it's like, it was that point of generosity is unconditional. But when Spirit taps you on that shoulder and says, "Give from your heart and give from love," because you know that I am the one source and the one power and presence, then I'm that space and that place from which Spirit gets to reveal itself. So to live a generous life, it's not just about circulating money and having money, and that's really good because we do need that. That's how we operate. It's just an energy exchange. But it's in the moment. To be truly abundant is like happiness in the moment. It's about living your purpose in the moment. It's about singing your songs in the moment. It's about connecting in love in the moment. That your true source of abundance is that one Spirit that reveals itself as your life. And that in every moment you have that opportunity. So we take those keys, the key of the kingdom of heaven within, joy, my heart. We take the key of gratitude, praising, recognizing, acknowledging, and allowing. I speak my word. And then the third key, generosity. I give from a place of love. That's when we know we are wealthy beyond measure. That we give from that true consciousness, that Christ consciousness of the allness of God that gets to reveal itself in our lives. And that our health and our well-being and then our ability to connect with others so that their lives may be healthy and whole and happy is how we truly live abundantly. That we're not here to hide and to hoard. We're here to celebrate, to recognize God, to recognize the presence, and then to trust. I love when you said trust, that we trust and we know. And for me, trust is letting go of control, to know that I get to show up as Spirit unconditionally, that my heart is wide open, I'm circulating joy, I'm in gratitude for the good that is here, even though we're watching the world and there's a lot that may be the antithesis of that, but then I have to be the place where it shows up. No matter what the world is revealing to us, I get to be the place, that one spot, that one encounter, that one smile, that one hug, that $1 that makes a difference because I did it from love. And that's what we're here for. Because the 700 orchids could be 700 ways that we show up to live an abundant life. Because it's so much more fun to share. Right? There's a story that this woman told on TikTok that when she was in grade school, they were very, very poor. They experienced a lot of poverty. And she never had lunch. This was way before, when there was school lunch. And this little girl always gave her a half of her sandwich. Always. And I thought about that because a woman was in tears going, the generosity of that one friend made such a difference in her life. Instead of saying, because I got a pretty big appetite, but instead of saying, well, I need to eat the whole sandwich for me, it's like, let me bless this and multiply it. Let me give so that others may live with joy in their heart. So think about this. What does abundance mean for you? How does abundance show up in your life? What ways can you unlock your heart and unlock your voice and unlock your hands so you can give generously? What one way today that can you take this out into the world? That is, you are the embodiment of abundance. You are that mirror of God to the world. And that no matter what is happening in the world, that we stand in the truth of our beingness, which is why I love this community, because this community multiplies that energy generously. It multiplies in ways that when your light is activated and you take it out into the world, then you are that abundance of God that's expressing, and it reminds people that they matter, they belong, that they're loved, and when we share, it shows that we care. And I can't do that for everybody. I'm on a budget. But when God says give, I give. And I have been blessed in my life to receive. And so we circulate that. So live an abundant life. Find ways that your joy of being can be expressed in this world. What makes your heart literally sing? Thousands of pumpkins? Orchids? coffee across the street. Find ways that when you are living abundantly in your joy of being, you're in that higher resonance of gratitude and love and joy. And in those moments when we have our sweet human moments, you allow that touchstone of truth to touch your heart, that in this moment, but right now, this moment, I'm fine. All is well. And if it's not well, that's why community is so important. You have a place to show up together. So anybody want to shout out, what is something that's abundant in your life? What is abundant in your life? Anybody? People who love you, yes. Let's say yes every time we hear it. Yes. Anybody else? Give me something about abundance. Anybody? We got a shy group here. Anybody? Creative inspiration. Everybody, yes. Anybody else? Abundance? Opportunity to share our gift. Yes. Anybody in the back? Money-making opportunities. Everybody, yes. And for my mother, a big pot of minestrone soup, because you can't eat that all by yourself. So give me a yes on minestrone soup. Yes. So just remember that when we actually actualize and realize the abundance that is ours, then we're a magnet of that good and we circulate it. So living an abundant life, count your blessings. Use the key to the kingdom of heaven within to unlock your heart. The key to unlock your voice with gratitude. And the key to unlock your generosity with deep love. And watch how the world will change from the inside out. So let's just go into prayer. Close your eyes and let's just take a deep breath together. Breathing in. All this love, all this joy, all this generosity, that is the way, that source energy that I call God, the divine, and just that beautiful, great master teacher, Jesus Christ, who just brings us to this clarity that right here in this moment, God is present, love is present, abundance is present. And so I breathe into this holy now, into the awareness that right here, right now, we are standing on sacred ground. Because we've come together in that name of love, that highest love, that deepest love, which is the truth of our beingness, that one power and that one presence that is the source of all of life. And so I give thanks into the joyful awareness of the presence of God and all the abundance that I not only get to receive and circulate, but I bless and multiply. And what I know that each person here is abundantly blessed in all their intentions and in all the way that abundance reveals itself, so that we have eyes that see clearly, we have ears that hear the truth of our beingness, and our hearts are so wide open it leads us into this powerful life of abundant living and in the divine circulation of our good. So let's just take a deep breath. As we breathe in the abundance of air that is always available to us, that we know as we exhale the good that is God, that is here right now, always and forevermore. And that we are that space, that place from which our heart leads, our love is strong, our joy is pure, and the light of God reveals itself in every moment. And we say, thank you, Spirit, for all the good that's here. Thank you for all that's multiplied. And thank you for all that's yet to come. And knowing that it is God and only God, good and only good. We breathe in. We feel that light within our body. We allow that energy to radiate from our heart, and knowing that it is so, it is activated in the universal law. It is actualized as our being and is taken out into the world as our love. We call it good. Oh, and like a big bowl of minestrone soup from my mama, so good. We just, in such gratitude, such deep gratitude, we say thank you. And together, let us breathe in as we release and let go. And so it is.